Welcome to the Fish House Nation podcast presented by Catch Cover, your home for ice fishing news, tips, stories, and strategies. And now, your host, Chris Larson.
Hello and welcome to the Fish House Nation podcast. Today we're talking early season crappies. As we record this, it's early to mid-October and it's still going to be a while before we're ready to walk on hard water. But if you spend any time online, you can see ice anglers already getting fired up and ready for first ice. It's a magical time of year. We get to try out our new gear, or at least get reacquainted with the trusty old equipment we haven't used since last winter. Speaking of equipment, now is a great time to tune up your auger. If you're using a gas auger, check the spark plug, make sure there isn't any old gas in it. Just make sure it's running well. If you use an electric, run the batteries through a cycle to be sure they still take a charge. No matter what you're using, check the blades and the flighting. You don't want to miss any time on the ice once it's finally here. Before we get into the fishing part of early ice crappie fishing, we need to talk a little bit about safety.
The main thing is obviously the safety needs to be emphasized more and more each year because everyone wants to scratch that itch that's been around for all summer and into the fall. And so safety is the utmost priority. But then second of all is just, again, being familiar with the lake and knowing where those spots are at so you don't have to spend a lot of time out there looking for it, that you're not walking on the ice and jeopardizing your own safety at that time.
That's Todd Heitkamp from Dakota Angler in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. Scratching that itch to get out on the ice is what it's all about, but making sure you stay on the top side of the ice is imperative. I've often heard the phrase, no ice is safe ice. Ice conditions vary, especially in the early season. You may be on 5 or 6 inches of ice in one spot, but encounter thin ice just a few steps away. Having a spud bar to test ice as you walk out is always a good idea. Carry a set of ice picks and an easy-to-access spot on your body to help pull yourself up on the ice if you need to. It never hurts to wear a flotation suit or even just a life jacket if a suit isn't in your budget. Before you go, be sure to tell someone where you're going and when they should expect you back. Better yet, fish with a friend or two. With little to no snow on the ice, first ice is usually pretty slick too. A pair of ice cleats can help prevent a fall and make sure your steps are much more efficient. Having good traction on your boots really helps. Part of the allure of first ice is smaller crowds. Obviously, a lot of us like to use our vehicles and ATVs when ice fishing, and early ice conditions keep those vehicles off the ice and the crowds lighter. On the plus side, that thin ice also makes it a lot easier to drill holes. No auger extensions needed. Another great advantage to having thin, clear ice is being able to see what's under your feet. Oftentimes the weeds are still green, and you can see them before drilling any holes. Not sure about depth or structure below? Pour some water on the ice and put your sonar transducer right on the surface and check it out. I recently talked to 4 elite ice anglers about how they locate and catch crappies during early ice. They all had slightly different strategies for finding early ice crappies. Scott Wilhelm, fishing manager at the Eau Claire, Wisconsin Shields, and a person I would describe as a crappie addict, likes to keep tabs on fish all fall long. Many anglers put their boat away and spend the fall hunting, or even worse, doing work around the house. Scott fishes open water right up to ice in.
Where I find them in as fall progresses later and later, they're going to be the exact same places, whether it's a basin or edge of weeds or whatever. But wherever I can find them late fall, that's where I'm going to find them first ice. Wilhelm
will fish weeds when the fish are there, but as they move deeper, he starts hitting basins and looking for structure like fish cribs and downed trees.
As the days get shorter and I guess the weeds just start dying off, if you can find weeds, they definitely can hold them, but usually they're moving out into deeper water, basins, and structure. I know a little over a week ago, I had them just absolutely stacked on some cribs out at 18 to 25 foot of water. Really nothing else around as far as structure, no weed mines, no nothing, just mucky, soft bottom and cribs, and they were absolutely loaded on them.
We heard from Todd Heitkamp earlier in the show. He runs Dakota Angler, a large independent fishing retail store in Sioux Falls, South Dakota. If you're ever wondering how the fish are biting in that area, check out the Dakota Angler Facebook page. Todd is always providing up-to-date fishing reports on the page. Before hitting the basins, Hike Camp looks for flooded timber or any other available structure.
Well, again, it depends on the structure. If they're around here in South Dakota, we don't have a lot of structures, so those crappies are going to be suspended at various locations. But there have been a few locations, a few lakes around the area that do have a little bit more structure, flooded timber, and that's where I would start right away. In early ice, I would be doing that and seeing if they're in those areas. If they're not, then you're just going to have to kind of scope around and look for them. But I'm going to look for flooded, some type of flooded timber or other type of structure like that.
Lakes, especially big ones, can seem like a complex puzzle that's hard to put together. With so much water to cover, where do you start? Joel Nelson has been holding a fishing rod since he was a youngster. Now he's a well-known outdoor communicator working with many of the top names in fishing. Nelson likes to break big waters down into small, more manageable waters. He's often targeting a specific type of body of water.
Bigger lakes with small little teardrop-shaped bays or almost separate lakes attached to them that have a good little miniature basin. Those little mini lakes or mini bays with their own individual basin, maybe it's 30 feet of water, maybe it's 50 feet of water, whatever it is, those can be some of the best spots to find early ice crappies. They're suspended. They'll be there all winter, but anglers end up finding out about those spots and beating them up pretty good.
One of the most enjoyable aspects of ice fishing is the social nature of it. Going out on the ice with friends is a great time. Some anglers enjoy a little friendly competition. Minnesota Made Outdoors is a pan fishing league that hosts a handful of fishing tournaments around the Minneapolis-St. Paul metro area. It's competitive but friendly. Paul Gazzoni, one of the league directors, is proud of the friendly atmosphere league competitors enjoy. When Gazzoni is looking for early season slab crappies, he goes shallow.
Those fish, those predators, they want to be shallow. I'm a huge proponent to fishing in 10 feet of water or less if you can. We all know kind of what we're going to get when we're fishing basin crappies. If we're fishing in 30 feet of water, most of those crappies are going to be your cookie cutters in that lake, right? So I'd say if you're looking for to bring home some fish and you're looking to or put your kids on fish, which is kind of what I'm doing early ice, is I will check out basins first just to get numbers, right? But I honestly think that those predator fish, and I've learned this from other people in the industry or just some of my mentors, those predators, those big ones, those donkeys, they want to be shallow. And obviously, what are they relating to? They're relating to, green weeds, cover, forage, you name it.
What I found most interesting about the 4 anglers I talked to is they all had a little different strategy for fishing early season crappies. Depending on the types of lakes they fish and their fishing style, they were fishing different patterns and areas. One thing they all shared with me was to try a variety of strategies. Fishing is a constant learning process. The only way to get better is to experiment and learn from your experiences. Early ice is a great time to try new things because the fish are usually receptive to different presentations. Thanks for listening to this episode. I hope it gets you excited for first ice and gets you thinking about new ways to catch more fish this season. If you're on Instagram, please give us a follow at @FishhouseNation. We're sharing ice fishing photos and tips there every day. We'll be dropping clips from the podcast there as well. Thanks to all of our guests, Todd Heitkamp, Scott Wilhelm, Joel Nelson, and Paul Gazzoni. Good luck on the water, and I'll talk to you next time.
Thanks for listening to the Fish House Nation podcast presented by Catch Cover. For more ice fishing content, visit our blog at catchcover.com.